All right. Welcome to the first training review session. Pretty exciting. So I'm just gonna highlight like what my week looks like for training, my microcycle. So the biggest things, back squatting twice a week, deadlifting once a week, and then my weighted chin-ups twice a week, weighted dips twice a week, and then cleans twice a week as well. So those are my biggest compound movements that I'm trying to work on and improved, and then all my other accessory work that you can see here. And then you'll see I have rep schemes for all the movements except for the compound movements. And what I'm doing right now is actually using Prilepin's chart. So Zach Telander made a really good video on this, and actually where I got this from, this training method. And it's kind of like progressive overload, but it really helps when you hit plateaus. And so that's what I'm using. This like has blown up a lot of my lifts, especially my squat. This was huge for me. And I haven't seen anybody do this, but I started applying this to my upper body, like body weight movements, like weighted calisthenics. And I've seen a significant increase in those lifts as well doing this. And that's why I'm going through another cycle right now. If you were to do this yourself, you would only change the column that says intensity of weight. And the intensity of weight column is basically what percent of your one rep max. So if I was going to say, for example, for the body weight movements or for squats, I'll do squats first. If your one rep max is like 315, then you do 70% of 315. And so for week one, you would be doing 4 sets, 6 reps of 70% of 315, right? And then you plug in again 315 times 0.72, you get the idea. For body weight movements, the thing that I found most beneficial was how much, not the additional weight you're using. So not 70% of, let's say your one rep max on a chin up is 70 pounds plus 70 pounds. You wouldn't do 70% of that. You would take your one rep max and then add your body weight to that, then do 70% of that. And I found that to be a lot more accurate in terms of, or a lot better in terms of the jumps you get, and it's a lot more manageable. You'll see if you try to do that with your own lifts, it'll look a little wonky, and like the jumps will be like 5 to 10 pounds or like 2 pounds, and you don't really have 2 pounds available a lot of the time, especially if you're working out at home. Like you can see my setup behind me. There's a lot where I do my body weight movements mostly. It's kind of hard to do, so I found that to work pretty well. Here what I'm doing is Peterson step up. So for those of you who don't know what Peterson step up is, this is all knees over toes guy. He's all over that. So if you want to learn more about it, go to knees over toes guy. This is mainly tendon training, particularly the patellar tendons and ankle stiffness. Those two things are really important for if you want to increase your vertical and just general athleticism. Ankle stiffness is, I don't know the exact way to describe it, but basically what I found it to be is your ability to balance and have a sturdy base in your feet. So when you see people doing like single leg pistol squats with their heel up, that they have really good ankle stiffness. Or you see people who can do crazy toe pops with their heels up and they're just jumping off the balls of their feet and they're jumping like 20, 25 inches, 30 inches off the ground. They have really good ankle stiffness. And that is control of the muscles and tendons in your feet and particularly in your ankles. So this exercise is really good at hitting that, as well as your patellar tendon. The whole idea where you're keeping your entire body flat except for the knee. The knee is the only point that is bending, and so all the weight goes onto the knee, specifically the tendon too. That's why I'm using heavy weight here. Here is I'm using 195, I believe, on the Smith machine. The reason I use the Smith, I know people are gonna make fun of me. I'm using the Smith because it's a lot easier to balance, especially when you're lifting your heel. If my heel was flat, I would be doing this on just with a regular barbell. But because my heel is lifting, the balance aspect when you're using heavier weight is really hard. So in order to get the heel lift and use heavy weight and stay balanced, I'm using the Smith. Here, just your general calf raise. I'm using a 45 dumbbell single leg here, elevated. If you are using a box, for example, every time you go down, you get your heel to touch the ground, you're doing a calf raise, and you're coming up, you kind of have to reset the balls of your feet on that platform, which kind of get annoying because you're going over the edge, right? On the slant board, however, you don't have to do any of that. And so I find a better contraction in the calf while I'm doing this exercise. Here I'm practicing my backwards handstand because my front handstand or handstand chest facing the wall is pretty strong. But every time I get into the position where my legs go behind my head, I get really shaky. And so that's what I'm working on here. Even in my other video, you can see that all my handstands were chest facing wall, but not chest facing wall. You can even see how shaky I am. Here, deficit pikes. Huge, huge. I wish I knew about these earlier. Deficit pike presses. Pike presses engage your shoulders, of course. But these, when your head goes past your hands, there's a whole different level of engagement in your triceps. And your triceps are huge stabilizers in upper body pressing movements, at least particularly the handstands, like isometrics, right? Just like how your biceps is stabilizer, your tricep is as well. And so I found these to like destroy my triceps, as well as my shoulders, of course. So these are mainly for improving my handstand, just overall pressing strength. Here, doing power cleans and jerks. I'm gonna say that one more time. The clean or the power clean isn't too important. I have other clips of that, but jerk here is one of my better jerks that I've done. My jerk form is horrendous. I've mostly practiced cleans. So here I'm trying to really improve my jerk and slide that back foot out first and set my heel in front of my knee quickly. And so you'll kind of get that little shake, like your hair shakes and like your when you press out, the bar shakes, like that's what you want. And you want and obviously that crispy sound. So I'll play it again. Boom. Stuck it. Really proud of that. Felt good too. This is and I put this clip in too, just as like a reference for the last jerk. This one was pretty iffy. You can see like the timing is just not there. And again, it's only using 125 because I'm just focusing on that technique. Here, jump technique. Jump tech. So I got into volleyball relatively recently. So I've been wanting to increase my vertical, but particularly jump technique is something I kind of overlooked for a while. And so I'm working on it here. Traditionally, you have your four-step approach, right? Especially in volleyball, your penultimate step is the same step or the same side as you used to hit, right? So I'm right-handed, my penultimate is my right hand. For those of you who don't know, penultimate is your second to last step, is your most powerful step in the jump. And I'm gonna play this clip one time so you can see basically what I'm doing wrong. The thing I'm doing wrong here is not my penultimate, but the step right before my penultimate is very, very shallow. The reason why it's not a good thing is because you'll hear people a lot of times say, take a big uh, step before your penultimate, get deep, get low, right? And you'll see the best jumpers, they get super deep, super low in their penultimate. But that's not because it's an active effort. There is a little bit of that emphasis that's happening, but a big part of it is your body position before going into that. So I'm gonna slow this clip down really quick and I'll show you what I mean. So take my first step. So I'm doing a four-step approach. My first step, not bad, getting some speed, but almost this step right here. You can see how my leg is in front of my body. What that means is my legs in front of me, so I'm slowing down. The big part of the jump or having good jump technique is smooth and connected chain in your approach. And when you slow down, you lose all the energy I built in my first step and the first of four steps was lost when I took this step with my heel in front of me, right? So I'm leaning forward, which isn't bad, but if my heel was more behind me and I could have a more forward lean, then the angle of my penultimate, so my leg, so right here, this isn't a bad position here, but my leg or the leg planting could be a lot more perpendicular to the ground if the step before that was behind my body. Because that would force me to basically stick my leg out further to catch myself from falling. And that's why when you see people who jump really freaking high or have really good technique, they have a really good step before their penultimate, and their legs are like basically perpendicular to the ground, right? So I'm not doing that. So fourth step, first step, second step in front of me. If it was behind me, then I would be able to get deeper and lower to the ground and push more through the penultimate. But instead, it's in front of me, so I slow down. You'll see the break in my acceleration, and so I have to kind of come up and down. And so my plant here isn't bad. My plant here isn't good, or isn't bad. You want to have your feet staggered a little bit and your front foot, so not your penultimate, but your last step, your toes to be pointed a little more inward than the other toe to leverage um, a braking force. And so that your all the speed you built goes into the jump and just vertical forces rather than horizontal. So like it wasn't a bad jump, right? I'm not jumping my highest. I think this is like a co-ed net too. But definitely could have. And I'll play it one more time just see broad jumps. Or I don't know what it's called, broad standing verticals. Yeah, so pretty raw clip. I think this is like 2 a.m. Bad habit of mine. I'm like supposed to be recovering and like sleeping early. Um, but yeah, so I was like, I wonder how high I can jump right now. So I literally went downstairs and started jumping. So here I got like a full swing through my arms and popped up, and I think this is like looks like closer to 30 inches. My head is like 3 or 4 inches away from the ceiling, which was pretty dope. But yeah, pretty happy with this. Down a little bit. But yeah. Okay, and then lastly, some explosive pull-ups. I do 5 sets, 2 reps of these. This is more, they're basically like plyos for your upper body. Just working on like muscle recruitment and just using more of that mass I've kind of gained with hypertrophy work and things like that to get some more speed in my reps. So I was pretty happy. My head basically touching the ceiling. Not as fast as I want them to be, but still pretty solid. So for this video, as I said from a previous one, I'm going to be reviewing training, but I'm also going to talk about something I find interesting or at least productive related to fitness. The thing I wanted to talk about today was the value of showing up for yourself. So I feel like this is like something we hear a lot of the time, but I don't know, maybe people just kind of get it. I didn't really understand it or get any value from it at first, but as I learned from training, which I'll explain a little bit later on, I found the value in this. So a little bit of context. Just today, as we all know, screens and technology kind of run our lives. Blue light, right? All these different forms of dopamine that we're bouncing between, short-term gratification. It's hard to be content when you're just feeding yourself these different forms of dopamine all the time. It's hard to get this long-term fulfillment and content with life when short-term gratification is all we know. When you need this much dopamine to be happy, and the normal amounts of dopamine are here, you're gonna feel pretty lousy a lot of the time, and you're gonna need blue light and technology and TikTok and all these different things just to feel okay, right? I guess how that's relevant is breaking that cycle, breaking this reliance on short-term gratification in order to be happy. Because what kind of happens when you rely on it, when you rely on screens to be happy and blue light, all these different things, you kind of build destructive habits, You stay up late because you can't fall asleep, right? Because you're just wired, your brain is on because it needs that hit, right? And the screen's giving it to you, so you stay up late, you wake up late, and you're in this endless cycle of not being able to fix your sleep. You get frustrated, you're stuck in these destructive habits, And I'm not sure where it leads to or how it's what it's led to for a lot of people, but it seems like if you don't change anything about it, you're gonna do that until the day you die, which is pretty horrifying. I personally think this is no way, or at least no fulfilling way to live, you know? Obviously, everyone has circumstances, right? And I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I have everything figured out. You know, I'm 19, I live with my parents, right? I don't know much about life. But what I do know is that, at least in my experience, living this way has made me relatively unhappy, not fulfilled. And I feel like this is the case for others as well. And I'm not completely out of it. I still practice these habits sometimes. But the way I've tried, or at least relatively succeeded in pulling myself out of it, is how I show up for myself. And that's kind of one of where that phrase comes in here. Something I learned from training, and anybody who trains, they know if you want to get stronger, if you want to reach a goal, it doesn't matter if a certain day you don't feel good, you don't feel like you want to train. You got to show up for yourself and train. That's where consistency comes in. And that's also where this phrase respecting yourself and showing up for yourself comes in. It's not about the you in that moment who doesn't want to train. That's not where the respect comes from. The respect is respecting the you that made the commitment to get stronger or reach that goal, the you in the past. That's what it means to respect yourself, and that's what it means to show up for yourself. And that didn't really click for me until I really started training and I started hitting plateaus. And at least how I applied this to the rest of my life is I gotta respect the decision that I made to try to better my life and break out of these habits. So in that moment where you're sitting there on your screen, it's really easy and comfortable to just sit there and just keep scrolling, right? But that's not respecting yourself. Respecting yourself, at least for me, is respecting my commitment to not do those things. And the second that you decide it is what it is, you know, I'm just gonna keep scrolling, that's when you stop respecting yourself. You stop respecting your past self that made that commitment, and you're no longer showing up for yourself. And that's what leads us to kind of these cycles, you know? And that's why it's so important to respect yourself. And for me, respecting myself is beginning and ending my day the way I want to. In the morning, I'll get up, and I never used to do this before, but I'll make my bed. And I didn't really see the value in it before, but I realized it's about that respect piece of setting the intention for your day, setting the intention that I'm gonna do better, I'm gonna start things right, I'm gonna get things done. I'm not gonna wake up, go through my phone an hour, and then get up and then go about my day. Starting the day right. And so for me, honestly, it feels better to just cross things off a list. I'll get some laundry done, I'll pray, things like that, you know, very simple. And living this way has honestly made me feel a lot more fulfilled in my life. And the same applies to my training. I'm not prolonging how long it takes for me to get out of bed. Leaves me more time to get some training in before I go do classes and things like that. And so I can actually get to my accessory work, which a lot of times we skip if we're on a time crunch, and get through an entire workout completely and do it the way I want to and take the rest that I want to. I think this idea of respecting yourself and showing up for yourself is so important, and it has honestly changed my life to a certain degree. Now, ideally, I live this way every single day, but I'm a human. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I got that perfect life like some influencers where, you know, they'll show their morning routine. Like, no. Okay, I have days where I'll sit and I'll scroll through YouTube or whatever for 30 minutes and an hour even. And it happens, you know, I'm human. But the important thing is striving for doing better every single day. striving to change that and to make this routine, these new habits, make them concrete and the norm, and break free from this reliance and this cycle of staying up late and needing to always be looking at a screen. Hopefully this reaches somebody or helps somebody. That's the goal of this channel at the end of the day, besides tracking my own fitness journey. I know I don't have the fanciest edits, of course, it's clear. And I don't have the strongest and flashiest lifts. And I'm not the most entertaining person. I know that. But I'll try to make up for it in the things I talk about, and at least the topics that I bring up. So hopefully I can bring value to somebody's life and even change it and help them if possible. So thank you for listening in, and I'll see y'all soon.